Hello, Namaskar, Vanakkam. My name is Sudhir Sahasranaman and you're watching Study with Sudhir. I hope you have seen the first explanation video of Pygmalion Act 1, in which we set up what is really happening in the first act of this play. Let's get to explanation video number 2. This will be done, I think, in 4 explanation videos, the entire first act. Now, we have already met the mother and the daughter. The daughter's name is Clara. We have also met the flower girl, and we have briefly met Freddy, who is the son of the mother. Also, we have heard some of the bystanders speaking. Now, an elderly gentleman of the amiable military tribe rushes into shelter and closes a dripping umbrella. Now, what do you mean by an amiable military kind? Amiable means someone who is of a pleasant kind of person, someone who is kind and pleasant. He's elderly, that means he's a senior citizen. He also rushes into the portico of the church and he closes an umbrella which is wet. Obviously, he had been caught in the rain and he has also made his entry into the portico. He's in the same plight as Freddy, who we met in the first explanation video, very wet about the ankles. He's in evening dress, which means he had also gone out in the evening with a light overcoat. He takes a place left vacant by the daughter's retirement because she has moved places. Retirement means because she has moved into another place. So he takes her place. Okay. So this whole thing of him having the dripping umbrella, being wet near the ankles, also kind of humanizes him. We are being told these kind of details about this gentleman who is an elderly gentleman. Now, the gentleman says, phew, he's really exasperated. The mother says to the gentleman, oh, sir, is there any sign of it stopping? You know, it's basically engaging in small talk, upper class, because generally, you know, if you have nothing better to discuss, you generally discuss the weather. Oh, it's been raining nonstop. Oh, it's so hot today. Oh, it's so cold today. We generally talk about the weather if you have nothing else to talk, or it is usually a good starting point to a conversation. The gentleman says, I'm afraid not. It started worse than ever about 2 minutes ago. Now, what is he saying? He's giving a very direct and he's giving a very factual reply. You know, what he's saying is very factual, saying that, no, it seems to be raining more heavily now in the past 2 minutes than it was before. So I'm afraid not means I don't think it will stop anytime soon. He goes to the plinth beside the flower girl, puts up his foot on it and stoops to turn down his trouser ends. So this is very detailed note given to the director of the play by the playwright George Bernard Shaw, that goes there, puts his foot up on the plinth, turns down the ends of the trousers. Oh, the mother, oh dear, she retires sadly and joins her daughter. So obviously she is a little disappointed with his reply. Okay. The flower girl says, taking advantage of the military gentleman's proximity, because he's standing near the flower girl while to kind of take his trousers down to kind of remove the folds. Proximity means nearness, to establish friendly relations with him. If it is worse, it is a sign it's nearly over. Now, she's interpreting it differently from the gentleman. She says that if it is worse than what it was before, it's probably a sign that it is going to get over very soon. So cheer up, Captain, and buy a flower of a poor girl. Now, she refers to him as Captain. She's kind of, thinking that, he's a captain, someone who is in the military. The only problem with this is that captain as a rank is actually much, much junior to the colonel that he actually is. So if, the manager of a company, if he's referred to as a clerk, the manager is not going to feel amused. Similarly, here, of course, we have no indications of that out here. But, I just want to tell you that, a captain is a junior rank compared to a colonel in the army. It could be the British Army or any army for that matter. So she uses that as an opportunity to sell him flowers, right? What does the gentleman do? I'm sorry, I haven't any change. So he kind of refuses point blank, saying that, I'm sorry, he doesn't want the flowers. Why? Because he doesn't have any change to buy the flowers. The flower girl says, I can give you change, Captain. So, she's very persistent. She says that I can give you change. So no issues if you do not have change to buy the flowers. So while he may have also indicated that if he had change, he would have bought the flowers, she's trying to still make the sale of her flowers. For a sovereign, I have nothing less. A sovereign is a gold coin which is worth a pound. Okay, it's a gold coin whose value is worth a pound. His tone suggests that he did not expect Eliza to have the change. That, oh, you have it for a sovereign, you have that much of change, because he says, I have nothing less than a sovereign than me. It can also be seen as a subtle way to avoid buying the flowers. The flower girl says, Khan, oh, do buy a flower of me, Captain. I can change half a crown. Take this for tuppence. Now, she says, Gan means go on. Okay. Gan means go on. Please do buy a flower of me, Captain. I can change, or I can give you change for half a crown. Now, tuppence is 2 pence. Okay. Tuppence is 2 pence. Half a crown is 6 shillings and 6 pence. Sorry, 2 shillings. Sorry. 2 shillings and 6 pence. I myself am not very conversant with these terms. Half a crown is 2 shillings and 6 pence. Tuppence is 2 pence, right? So she says that you can buy this for 2 pence and I can actually give you change for half a crown, which is 2 shillings and 6 pence, which means that she will be able to give him back 2 shillings and 4 pence, right? So she would be doing that. So her persistence shows that she's street smart and she knows how to do business. The gentleman says, now don't be troublesome. There is a good girl. He tries his pockets. I really haven't changed. Stop. Here is 3 halfpence, if that's any use to you. And he retreats to the other pillar because he doesn't want to continue the conversation with the flower girl. So he's saying, now don't be troublesome means also indicates that he is a bit irked by her, nagging and being very persistent. And he says that he decides to give in and end the interaction. He calls her a good girl to keep it lighthearted. He doesn't want to offend her. So he calls her a good girl and he moves away in order to avoid the conversation. Now, what happens is an old-fashioned British pronunciation, an informal spelling of halfpence. Okay. That's an informal spelling of halfpence, which means half of a penny. The flower girl is disappointed, but thinking 3 halfpence is better than nothing, she says, thank you, sir. Now, the bystander says to the girl, you be careful, you give him a flower for it. You have taken the money from it, but ensure that you do give him a flower. There is a bloke here behind taking down every blessed word you are saying. So while he says that first to Eliza, and then he says that there is a person, a bloke means a man. Okay, he's referring to Professor Henry Higgins, whose identity will be revealed later in the act, that he's actually observing each and every word of what you're saying, and he's taking down notes. So he asks her to be careful. You need to be careful. So the reference introduces that a new tension, that her words, whatever she's kind of chattering and speaking, is actually being noted down, scrutinized, analyzed, and being written down in a notebook. So it gives the reader an idea that the speech, the words that you speak could be noted by someone, and it could be a marker of social identity. And that is something which is a theme of the play. I'd explained that to you in the introduction video, which I insist each one of you must see, just about 20 odd minutes long. So you should see that because it gives you an idea about the themes of the play. So it is a marker of social identity. Please note this down. It's a good phrase to use in your answers. The flower girl's suddenly springing up terrified. So the moment she learns that someone is actually noting down each and every word that she's mentioning, she's obviously gets frightened. Obviously, it's pretty natural reaction. I ain't done nothing wrong by speaking to the gentleman. Now you see, she says that, I haven't done anything wrong by speaking to the gentleman. I have a right to sell flowers if I keep off the curb. So she says curb is a raised stone at the edge of the pavement. It's a raised stone, like there is a pavement and there is a stone out here. So this would be the curb, right? So if I have to keep off the curb, so I have a right to sell the flowers. And then she gets a little hysterical. Hysterical means her voice is a little raised and she's speaking a lot. I'm a respectable girl, so help me. I never spoke to him except to ask him, referring to the gentleman, to buy a flower of me. General, and then there is pandemonium. Everybody is talking at something at the same time. Mostly sympathetic to the flower girl as to, oh, she was only trying to sell her flowers. Nothing really wrong with it. Why should someone be making a note of it? But deprecating her excessive sensibility. At the same time, some of them are a little critical. Deprecating means they are not appreciative. Deprecating is the opposite of appreciating. They are a little critical and not approving of her excessive sensibility, that, oh, is she overreacting a bit, right? Cries of, oh, don't start hollering. Hollering means kind of, don't start raising your voice and a bit of crying. Who is hurting you? There's nobody who is hurting you. Nobody's going to touch you. He may be noting down something, but that should not hurt or harm you in any way. What's the good of fussing so much? Steady on. Easy. Just calm down, relax, chill. Come from the elderly state spectator. So some of the elderly guys say that, chill, just relax. Don't make a fuss over something like this. Who pat her comfortingly. There are less patient ones, bid her to shut her head. Just keep quiet. Just shut up. Or ask her roughly, what's wrong with you? Why are you making so much of a fuss and a noise? A remoter group, which is, standing a little further away and probably not hearing clearly what is going on. They want to know what the matter is. And they kind of also crowd in to kind of, listen to, what's happening. What is this entire commotion? What is this entire pandemonium about? And they increase the noise with question and answer. What is the row? What is this entire argument about? What did she do? Where is he? Who is the person who is taking down notes? A tech taking her down. Tech is actually, it means detective. Okay. Tech means detective. What him? Yes, him over there. So somebody says, yeah, that's a person. Took money of the gentleman, etc. So they explained that she took money from the gentleman. The flower girl, who is not distraught, she's kind of getting very emotional and sobbing, and she's also being surrounded by a lot of people. She's the kind of center of attraction, breaks through them to the gentleman, crying mildly, and she goes back to the gentleman who she called captain. Oh, sir, don't let them charge me, and please don't let them, charge me means book a case against her. You do not know what it means to me. They will take away my character and drive me on the streets for speaking to gentlemen. So she says that she has not done anything wrong, that she is only selling flowers and she's not speaking inappropriately to anyone. So basically, one, the crowd dynamics is the first point I want you to kind of think about. Crowd dynamics. So the crowd dynamics is that it has mixed reactions. I told you about the people who are a little further away, the people who are close, the elderly people, the impatient people. All of them are kind of talking together and giving different kinds of reactions. So there is a little bit of a hubbub, a little bit of a commotion out there. Some people are sympathizing with her. Some people are saying, cut out the drama. Don't do so much of drama. Don't fuss so much. The misunderstanding basically arises because of her way of speaking, which makes her sound a little less refined, leading to assumptions about her character. And the theme of class anxiety, because she's someone who is not very well off. So the moment something like this happens, where she thinks, suspects that, a detective is taking down notes based on what she has said so far, makes her feel very anxious and fearful. Okay. She feels that, and that's why she's going on saying, I'm a respectable girl. It conveys her vulnerability. She wants to insist that I'm a respectable girl, not that she's not, but she wants to insist, and that shows the fragility of a woman's position in the London of that time. So her ranting that they will take away my character, what does that mean? It means that she's worried about being defamed, that she says, they will take away my character. It shows her fear that they will defame her. And finally, what happens as a result of this is that the note taker, the person who was taking down notes, He comes forward on her right, and everyone is crowding around him, and he says, there. Who is hurting you, you silly girl? What do you take me for? So he is very direct, he's blunt, he's not very polite. He calls her a silly girl. This is important. Please make a note of it. And he says that he, he's very blunt about it, and he demands to know that what do you take me for? The bystander says, it's all right. He's a gentleman. Look at his boots. Now the bystander looks at his boots. And because of his boots, he comes to the conclusion that he's a gentleman. And he explains to the note taker, she thought you was a copper's narc. Okay, you were a copper's narc. Now, a copper's narc is a slang for a police spy or an informer, a police informer or a spy. So he says that the note taker, Eliza thought that the note taker was a police spy, and therefore she got a little flustered. Now, we have seen that how she was getting very emotionally agitated, and that's the reason the bystander gives. The note taker says, what is a copper's narc? He doesn't know that. He's quickly interested, and that's something very important. He's quickly interested, and he wants to know what is a copper's narc. He's not familiar with this term, like many of us. Like you go to some place, and they may speak a particular lingo, a particular idiom, a particular phrase, which you may not be very familiar with. So you would know what you may ask, what does this mean? The bystander, inept at definition, in the sense that he's not very good at explaining. It's a copper's narc, as you might say. He's not helping by giving any kind of explanation. What else would you call it? A sort of informer, right? So the note taker doesn't know what exactly the slang means in that sense. It also, but at the same time, for the note taker to show interest, it kind of gives us a hint that he's interested in the language, right? So the flower girl says, I take my Bible oath, I never said a word. So she's going hysterical and getting to the Bible and says that I swear on the Bible that I never said a word. So what does it convey? That she is panicking. Also conveys her vulnerability. These are words which I insist you should use in your answers. The note taker, overbearing but good humored. Overbearing means he has a sense of a superiority complex. Oh, shut up. Do I look like a policeman, right? So he says that in a very bossy, in a very superior kind of a tone, because he also wants to shut her up, shut up. And he says it in so many words. The flower girl, she's far from reassured. Then what did you take my words for? How do I know whether you took them down right? You noted them down. Now you may have written anything. How do I know that you noted down the right words? You just show me what you wrote about. It also shows a sense of innocence, right? Isn't it the way it seems like, it shows a sense of innocence, the way she's speaking. Now, the note taker opens his book and holds it steadily under her nose, though the pressure of the mob because she's holding, and there are other people also want to see. Kalikai, what has he written? So they're also carrying. You can imagine this kind of a scene. Over his shoulders would upset a weaker man. There's a thing. What's that? That ain't proper writing. I can't read that. So the flower girl can't read because it is in phonetic script. It's not in proper English. It reflects both her illiteracy and also the gap between his world and her world, right? So it reflects the gap that, the twain don't meet. It's a very different world. The note taker says, I can. He reads, reproducing her pronunciation exactly. Cheer up, Captain. Now have a flower of a poor girl. Now, this is what she said to the elderly gentleman. The flower girl, much distressed. It's because I called him Captain? I meant no harm. To the gentleman, she says, oh, sir, don't let him lay a charge again for a word like that. No, so she's kind of pleading to the gentleman that just because I called him Captain, is that the reason why I am being kind of, targeted? I did not mean any harm. I just called him Captain. And she pleads her case to the elderly gentleman. The gentleman says, charge? I make no charge. I couldn't be bothered. And then he says to the note taker, really, sir, if you are a detective, You need not begin protecting me against molestation by young women until I ask you. So he says that, he has written in the phonetic script, the Cockney accent that Eliza, the flower girl, has used. Now, the gentleman says that you do not need to protect me. Molestation here means ill treatment. Okay, being treated badly or treated ill by the flower girl. That's what molestation means here. So anybody could see that the girl meant no harm. So he's on the side of the girl, that the girl meant no harm to him, and he does not need to be protected against any kind of ill treatment by young women, by the detective, until he asked for help. So this reveals, so far, what it reveals is that the flower girl is feeling very nervous, very emotionally vulnerable, very powerless in the presence of strangers who are from a higher class. Especially the note taker. She assumes that the note taker has legal authority. She assumes that the note taker has some kind of legal authority because this is what has been put into her head, that he could be a detective, right? So she's also feels at the same time that her speech is being mocked or put under a microscope. It is being scrutinized. Okay. So she's scared that her harmless comment about cheer up, Captain, is being used to trap her in some way. But of course, the gentleman comes to her rescue. The bystanders, all of them, they're demonstrating against police espionage. Police espionage means police spying, keeping an eye on the public. Of course they could. What business is it of yours? You mind your own affairs. He wants promotion. He does taking down people's words. So they all turn against the note taker. So they mean to say, of course they could means, of course anyone could see that they meant no harm, because you need to link it to the last sentence of the gentleman. The gentleman says anybody could see that the girl meant no harm, and they are in agreement with that. Of course they could. Anyone could see that the flower girl meant no harm. The bystanders get defensive on Eliza's, the flower girl's behalf. They assume that the note taker is some kind of a detective, some kind of a tech, who's actually targeting the flower girl, the poor flower girl, in order to get a promotion. Oh, he wants promotion. He does. So they're assuming a lot of things. They're assuming two things. One, that he's a detective. Number two, that he wants a promotion, which is why he's targeting the flower girl. So taking down people's words. Girl never said a word to him. What harm if she did? Nice thing, a girl can't shelter from the rain without being insulted, etc., etc., etc. So they are kind of, going ballistic at the note taker, and they say, so it kind of conveys the public sympathy for the working class woman and suspicion of the surveillance types. He looks like a gentleman because of his boots, according to the bystander. Nevertheless, they also suspect that he is a detective who is angling for a promotion, and they say that they don't like the fact that he's indulging in surveillance, or what they suspect that he's indulging in surveillance of this kind, and they defend the girl, saying that she has not done anything wrong. The bystander says he's not a detective, he's not a tech, he's a blooming busybody. That's what he is. I tell you, look at his boots. So the bystander says he's not a detective, he's a useless person who is meddling with other people's affairs. Look at his boots, because expensive boots convey that he's a gentleman. So he's a gentleman, but he's a useless gentleman who is only kind of interfering in other people's lives. And it's also an indication, interestingly, that the bystander believes that a detective cannot really afford to buy such expensive shoes, which I found quite an interesting comment. So class is being judged visually on the basis of the note taker's boots. Okay. The note taker turning on him genially. He turns on him with a smile and he says, and how are all your people down at ICSE? Now, he takes everyone by surprise, especially the bystander, by guessing the place he comes from, because he's hearing the bystanders. Okay, so to one of them, he kind of turns around and says, and how is everyone at ICSE, right? He's recognized him by his accent, and this completely confuses and also impresses the bystander, because he says, who told you my people came from ICSE? So that means he's right. So he says, like, for example, I come from Palakkad in Kerala. Palakkad in Kerala is the first town. The moment you move from Coimbatore, cross the Tamil Nadu Kerala border at Walayar, you move into Palakkad. So Palakkad is the first district of Kerala. Okay. Now the story goes that hundreds of years ago, people from the present day Tamil Nadu were the ones who moved into Kerala and settled down there. So it was largely a Tamil speaking population from Tamil Nadu, present day Tamil Nadu, who moved into present day Kerala and settled down in Palakkad. So the people of Palakkad, a large majority of them, actually speak Tamil, but because they are in a state which speaks Malayalam, it has also got mixed with Malayalam. So what happens is that the Tamil which is spoken in Palakkad is actually very different from the Tamil that you would hear being spoken in, let's say, a Madurai, a Chennai, a Tirunelveli, a Tanjavur, right? Because that will be proper Tamil. The Tamil which is spoken in Palakkad is actually a mix of Malayalam and Tamil. So when someone like me goes to a proper Tamil Nadu and they hear my Tamil, immediately they will say, "You're from Kerala," kind of thing, or "You're from Palakkad." You know, they'll immediately kind of guess. I was doing an interview with Kamal Hassan, and I did not say. I mean, I'm generally very conscious of my Tamil. Before we were starting the interview with Kamal, I just turned to my camera person Daniel, and I just said one line saying, asking if all the checks were done, audio, video checks were all done, and whether we could start. I just said that one line, and Kamal Hassan immediately said, "You're from Palakkad," kind of thing. So I realized it comes, you can recognize someone just by the diction and the accent. I'm just telling you something which has happened to me, and it has happened to me multiple number of times. Anyway, so the bystander suspiciously, "Who told you my people come from Chelsea?" So the note taker, one, of course, has impressed him, has also confused the bystander. And obviously now people realize that he's not just a detective. He may or may not be a detective, but he's someone who is able to kind of has an extraordinary ear for language and the accents and the diction of people. Note taker says, "Never you mind, they did." To the girl, how do you come to be up so far east? You were born in Listen Grove. Now the note taker says, "Never you mind. I know they did come from Chelsea." Chelsea is a village in England which is about 80 miles from London. Okay, I'm just telling you. And he's being very gentle. He turns to the flower girl and says, "How did you come?" Because he's dismissive of the bystander's curiosity, who wants to know, "How did you come to know?" I'm not bothered in talking to you. He's talking now to the flower girl. So he says he wants to know how that she's from Listen Grove, which is a slum in the western part of London. So how did you come to this part of London, which is in the far eastern part, right? So how did you come? Because she comes from Listen Grove. He guesses that, which is a slum in the western, northwestern part of London, right? How did you end up, or how did you come to this area? Now the tone is questioning because he's surprised to find her here based on her accent. The flower girl is appalled. Appalled means she's shocked. She's taken aback. "Oh, what harm is there in my leaving Listen Grove? It wasn't fit for a pig to live in, and I had to pay 4 and 6 a week." And she's in tears. "Oh, boo-hoo," and she breaks down and she's bawling away. Okay, BAWLING. So she says, "Well, what is the harm in that? Because Listen Grove is a working class slum area in the northwestern part of London. It is considered dirty. It is considered extremely crowded." And he's saying this with certainty, not as a guess, based on her accent, based on her pronunciation, based on her diction and speech patterns, because he's a professor of phonetics. He's demonstrating his expertise in phonetics, the science of speech sounds. I've said this all in the introduction video. He can pinpoint where someone comes from based on the way they speak. So this line is important because it shows Professor Henry Higgins' skills in phonetic analysis. It also exposes the social class assumptions because it shocks and embarrasses this flower girl, because she's embarrassed that her place has been identified and she's in the another part of London. So she feels embarrassed that her background is being exposed like this by this particular person. because she doesn't want to, because she says it is not even fit for a pig to live in, right? So why would I kind of, it's not something to feel proud of, right? Moreover, all this is being made public, and she says I had to pay 4 and 6 a week. 4 and 6 a week means 4 shillings and 6 pence a week, right? So 1 shilling is 12 pence. So 1 shilling is 12 pence. So that means 4 shillings, 4 into 12 pence plus 6 pence. So that's the amount that she had to pay every week to stay there. So she says it wasn't worth it because it's not even fit for a pig to live in. So she is aware of the background she comes from, and she feels that she's being judged unfairly for the place she hails from, her background. The note taker, live where you like, but stop that noise, because she's bawling away. The gentleman says to the girl, come, he can't touch you. You have a right to live where you please. So the gentleman comes to the defense of the flower girl. A sarcastic bystander thrusting himself between the note taker and the gentleman. Now, this is a different bystander. Park Lane, for instance, I would like to go into the housing question with you. I would. So, 1 second. Let me just see if there is any line which is missing. See, if there is any line which is missing here, please refer to your book, because there is a bit of a difference between the published thing and the PDF that I have. There are some changes. 1 second. I will just see. Okay, there is nothing, right? Fine. I just thought maybe there was some extra lines here. So he says Park Lane, for instance. Now, what is he saying? He responds to the gentleman saying that, who has said that Eliza had the right to stay wherever she wanted to. Park Lane is one of the richest places in London. Okay, one of the most luxurious areas in London, and it is where the upper class live. So the bystander sarcastically is suggesting that Park Lane as a housing option for the poor flower girl, which is obviously impossible, actually very absurd. So he's saying that, Park Lane, for because the gentleman has said you have a right to live where you please. So he's suggesting Park Lane, for instance, but obviously she's not someone who can afford to live in Park Lane. And then he says, I would like to go into the housing question with you. I would. What does it mean? The housing question refers to social and political debates that used to take place at that time about the lack of proper and affordable housing for the working class, for the poor people. So the sarcastic bystander is actually mocking the gentleman, or possibly even the note taker, for talking idealistically, mainly the gentleman, for talking idealistically as if everyone is free to live wherever they want. Obviously, they can't. If I am poor, I can't afford a house to rent or to buy on Park Lane. So it's not something which can really happen. So he feels that these people are being very idealistic by saying that, oh, you can live wherever you want. You obviously can't. So he's engaging in a housing question debate with the gentleman. So he's basically implying that it's easy for a rich man to say, oh, you can live wherever you want to live. But obviously, they don't understand how poor, how bad the housing conditions in London at that time are. The flower girl subsiding into a brooding melancholy over her basket and talking very low-spiritedly to herself. I'm a good girl, I am. So now she is quietened down because the note taker has snubbed her, asked her to shut up, just stop all that noise. So she has subsided into a brooding melancholy, means sadness. She's feeling sad. And she's talking in very low tones to herself. She's telling herself, I'm a good girl. I'm a good girl. The sarcastic bystander is not listening to her. He says, do you know where I come from? Okay. So, he's just trying to kind of, feel very important. The note taker promptly says, Hoxton. It reminds me of Suhani Shah. Has any one of you seen Suhani Shah, who kind of, guesses people? He's a mind reader, magician. Somehow it seems like that. And then there are titterings, means everybody, everybody's talking. Popular interest in the note taker's performance increases because they feel that, he's able to guess where they are coming from, right? Now, Hoxton is a working class area in East London, also known for their poverty and, poor conditions. The sarcastic one, amazed. Well, who said I didn't? Blimey is a slang for my God or bless me. It could mean both bless me or my God. It's an exclamation of which kind of indicates or suggests surprise. So tittering means, there is laughing, there is giggling, and there is interest in the what the note taker has to say. You know everything, do you? You do. The flower girl still nursing her sense of injury. Ain't no call to meddle with me, he ain't. So flower girl is still feeling very emotional. She says, she's muttering that he has no reason to interfere in her life or to judge me. Now you see, too many double negatives she keeps on using. If you see her throughout, she keeps using double negatives. Okay, that that he has no business to interfere with my life. The bystander to her says, of course he doesn't. Don't you stand it from him. To the note taker, see here, what call have you to know about people what never offered to meddle with you? Where is your warrant? Okay, I don't know whether this line is there in the, I think where is your warrant is not there. One second, the bystander to her. Yeah, meddle with you. In your textbook, it's not there, but it is there in the original Bernard Shaw play. In fact, there are some more lines after this. So the bystander to her says not to tolerate any negativity from the note taker. Don't you stand it means don't take any negativity from the note taker. And then he addresses the note taker. He says, see here, he's basically challenging his right to spy on people, that you have no business to spy on people. Okay, where is your, and he basically goes in the original text, they say, who gave you the authority to investigate us? Are you even an officer? All that is not there in this MSB publishers thing. So I'm going by this MSB publishers because that's what has been recommended in most schools. This is also not there. Okay, now the flower girl says, let him say what he likes. I don't want to have a truck with him. Now, I don't want to have a truck with him means, see here also, I don't know truck. So she uses double negative all the time. Okay, so she's basically saying that I don't want to have anything to do with him. No truck with him is a colloquial expression, which means that, I want to completely avoid him. I don't want to interact with him in any way. So she's basically trying to remove herself from the conflict. She's feeling very defensive about the entire episode. The bystander says, you take us for dirt under your feet, don't you? Catch you taking liberties with a gentleman. So the bystander says, oh, you treat us working class. That's why you are taking down notes. Would you do the same thing with a gentleman? I mean, let me catch you taking similar liberties with a gentleman, doing something similar with a gentleman. The sarcastic bystander says, yes, tell him where he come from if you want to go fortune telling. So the sarcastic bystander, now you tell about this gentleman, where he came from. You told about me. You told about that person, right? You told about the flower girl. Now you tell about the gentleman if you really want to do fortune telling. So basically, he's trying to be sarcastic. You distinct. And another interesting thing is that he's talking of him as a fortune teller. Fortune tellers are generally not seen to be having any kind of signs. Fatta marte hai, shooting in the dark kind of thing. So basically, it's trying to suggest that whatever Professor Higgins actually did, the note taker did, was only plain guesswork and nothing more than that. The note taker says Cheltenham, Harrow, Cambridge, and India. Now he's talking about the gentleman. Now Cheltenham is probably a reference to Cheltenham College, which is a prestigious school in England. Harrow is another prestigious public school. Cambridge is one of the, Oxford and Cambridge are the two most prominent universities in England. And of course, India. That means that he has worked as a government officer in India. The gentleman quite right, and there is laughter and reaction. Now everybody turns in favor of the note taker, that he's actually able to guess right. And exclamations of, oh, he knows all about it. Told him absolutely correct. Told him proper. Hear him tell the toff where he came from. Toff is a slang for a rich, posh person. Okay. Which means the gentleman, a rich, posh person. Where he came from, etc. May I ask, sir, do you do this for a living at a music hall? So the gentleman is curious and he asks the note taker whether he actually, music halls were popular venues for entertainment in England of that time. So do you actually do this on stage at a music hall for a living? Means you could actually be earning money by doing this, guessing things about people. The note taker says, I've thought of it, perhaps I shall someday. So the music hall was where skits, dramas, songs, comic acts, etc. were performed. So note taker, he responds, he says, I've thought of that, maybe I will do it someday. So he's neither confirming it nor denying it. He's confident, he's clever, he doesn't feel insulted, and he says that maybe I will kind of think about making a show of it one day. The rain has stopped and the persons on the outside of the crowd begin to drop off, means they start leaving the portico of the church. With this, we come to the end of the second explanation video. I hope the Act 1 till here is absolutely clear. I'll now meet you in video 3, in which we will do the third part, the third explanation video of the first act of Pygmalion. Tata, bye-bye. Thank you very much. Share the video with your batchmates, with your juniors the next year, and also subscribe to the channel. Tata.